What's up guys, this is Chris here, and today we're going to be doing a pretty controversial video. We're going to be talking about some of the reasons why I really don't like the Army's new handgun. Now, I know the Sig P320 has been very popular over the last few years, particularly since the military contract, and I know that there's a lot of good things about the 320, which we'll go over quick before I talk about the things I don't like. But I think there isn't enough people out there being vocal of some of the drawbacks of the 320 and maybe some competitive options that do what the 320 does, but do it better. Before we get started, make sure you click that subscribe button and click the notification bell to get notified in future videos. Also, if you don't agree with the video and stuff I have to say after you listen to it, make sure to leave a comment below and tell me what you actually think. I also want to mention my page supporters. Thank you guys very much for supporting the channel. That's the best way to do it. If you want to support the channel, just go to the link in the description below. And also, I want to mention a local shelter in Ames, Iowa. It's the YSS. I really like to support those guys in every video, so make sure to go down in the description, click the link, and go to donate, and donate a couple bucks to those kids. It's a youth shelter. They could use your help. Now, let's talk about the 320. The 320 is a revolutionary gun. Don't get me wrong. I'm not taking anything away from the things the 320 has achieved. One of the best things, if not the best thing about the 320 is its modularity, your ability to change the gun. One of the issues I have with the 320 is the fact that you have to change the gun to actually make it relatively good. Now, the 320 has a fire control module in the actual lower part of the firearm, which allows you to get pretty much whatever frame you want, which allowed Sig to cheap it out on the frame that you get. The frame here that the 320 initially came out with is the same frame or a similar frame that you get with the M17, which is why I'm using the M17, which is the military version of the 320, as an example. This is a very unergonomic grip. It doesn't have a lot of texture. It feels like a broom handle, and it feels like you're literally holding a Luger or something. I'm not really sure why they went with this particular design, but they did. Now, the good thing about the 320 is that you can fix that by buying grips for relatively cheap. You can actually fix it by getting a Wilson grip. You can fix it by getting one of their X-Line grips, or maybe even their tungsten grips, or one of these grips here, or maybe some aftermarket grips as well. And because they're not the serialized part, they are easier to change out. Now, along with the grip, I want to get into my first real gripe, and that's going to be bore axis. And now there's going to be a lot of SIG guys in here that say bore axis doesn't matter, but it does. If you've taken an intro to physics class, you will know that it does matter. If I hold the gun down here and the reciprocating mass is up here along with the explosion that takes place, the higher up that goes, the more cars will drive by. The higher up that happens, the further and further that gets above my hand, the more flip you are going to experience. Now, those people will say you're not going to experience any more recoil impulse. Well, you'll perceive more recoil because of the higher axis that the thing is reciprocating. So if I'm holding it up here next to the slide, and you can tell that if you've ever owned something like an Archon Type B or a Lago Arms Alien, the recoil impulse in the same 9mm round drastically changes depending on how high or low it is over your hand. Now, the 320 series uses a grip style that's very similar to something like a 1911 or a CZ, which is why people will say that those guns have low recoil, so bore axis doesn't matter. But that's actually not true, because those guns have two things the 320 doesn't have. First off, they have a steel grip and more weight down here, keeping that flip more minimal. The second thing those guns have is a hammer, right? So when the gun is fired, it not only has to defeat the recoil spring, but it has to defeat the 9 to 10 pound to 12 pound, whatever you have, hammer spring. So when the gun comes back, the hammer's dragging it, slowing it down, along with the recoil spring. The other thing that does is also slow down your split times, because if you have to fire the gun and get back on target, it's going to be slower than it would be if it was just that sewing machine like an Archon Type B or a Lago Arms Alien, where you can just keep the gun on target all the time and pull the trigger until the problem goes away. That was kind of slow. Better. Now, the issue I have so much with the M17 or the P320 is that they could have easily fixed this by using a lower axis design. And now people will say you can't do that because it has the fire control module, but I would disagree, because the Beretta APX is not only a cheaper gun than the M17 and a more reliable gun, which we'll get into here in a minute, but it also has a lower bore axis, and it does still retain all the same features of the fire control module that the 320 does. So in my opinion, not only is the bore axis a detriment, but it also can be fixed. And on top of that, there are many, many striker fire guns, including the Archon, including the Glock, including the M&P, especially guns like the Sig P320, for example, which have a much lower bore axis and a much lower perceived recoil, which equates to faster follow-up shots. Now, I know you guys are going to say the 320 is fast enough because many people win championships with it, but the reality is most of the people that won championships with the 320 put on the heavier tungsten grip because exactly of the bore axis and the recoil impulse. Now, the second thing I don't like about the gun is going to be its reliability. It's busy not malfunctioning, of course.
Uh-oh.
There's a failure to feed there.
Uh-oh.
Oh, that's 2 in a row.
Oh boy. Well, this is 115 grain Cellar and Bellet. So I gotta say, out of all the guns I've tried recently, I did not think the Sig would have reliability problems. Ah, had a little problem there. Well, that was fast. Got another fail. Well, that's not so good. Now, a lot of people are gonna tell me the military did all this testing and the police use it and that their gun is very reliable. I've shot thousands of rounds through my 320 and it's very reliable. And you're probably right. But the reality, for me at least, is that I've had a lot of these guns. And I mean a lot. I review guns for a living. So I've had the M17, the M18, at least 5 or 6 variants of the 320 alone. And I can tell you that overall, at least from my data in my shooting, which is the only data that I have to give you, I only have a sample size of just me, I found that these guns are less reliable than almost all of its peers. If you put a 320 against a CZ, the CZ is more reliable. If you put a 320 against a Glock, the Glock's more reliable. Against an M&P, the M&P is more reliable. You see where I'm going with this? Overall, with all the 1,000 round reviews we've done, or 2,000 round reviews, I've had at least 1 to 2 malfunctions with every single Sig that I've had on the channel. The Sig 320, I should say. And now, before you guys say I just hate Sig, you're absolutely wrong. The 226, the 229, and the P210 were all perfectly reliable on my channel, and I love those guns exactly for that. Sadly, the 320 is just not a 226, even though it wants to be. I just don't trust it near as much as I trust something like my M&P Shield or my Glock 19 or many of the guns that have proven to me over the years that they're gonna work time and time again with different ammunition types. The last thing that I wanna talk about that I really don't like is going to be the drop safe issues. And I didn't want to add that on this list because those are questionable and those are sometimes blown out of proportion, sometimes not. There's agencies that have said they've had drop safe issues, and there's also people that have come out and said that those are fake and that you were using poor gun handling skills. I have seen these guns replicate those issues in YouTube videos where people have dropped them and they have fired. I don't know where I sit on it, but I can tell you where I sit on a Glock. Glocks don't have drop safe issues. I can tell you where I sit on a Sig P320. They don't have drop safe issues. A Walther PDP doesn't have drop safe issues. I don't have to be lukewarm about those guns. I can trust those guns aren't gonna shoot me in the dick when I'm wearing it on an appendix carry rig. I can trust if I accidentally drop one of those guns someday, you don't wanna do that of course, but if you did do it, I can trust they're not gonna ventilate my big toe or shoot me in the ass, right? I don't want to have to consider whether or not my gun's going to go off when I drop the damn thing. And one of the things that makes me uncertain about that is the fact that this is a striker-fired gun without a trigger safety. Now, a lot of people say you don't need one, a lot of people say you do. I'm not an engineer. I don't work at Sig. Now, the Sig P320 has been used in a lot of different areas, a lot of different militaries, a lot of different law enforcement agencies, and if they were having drop safe issues all the time, you would definitely know it. So, is it an issue that's an epidemic among the firearms industry? Absolutely not. But is it a point of contention, and is it a thing that I think about when I want to carry a gun? Absolutely. And because there are so many other guns for the same price that do the same thing for the same capacity, the same weight, sadly, the drop safe issue is a reason why I pass on the 320 and go to a gun that has never had those issues. So, I just wanted to put that in there, even though it's probably not quite as valid as the other two. That being said, it's still a thing I think about, so I said it. If you agree with those things, that's fine. If you don't, let me know in the comment section what you do or don't agree with. If you want to see more of these videos where I just kind of rant about things I don't like about guns that people really do like, let me know. I'm not saying that 320 is a bad gun. I'm not saying that you shouldn't carry one. I'm not saying that you shouldn't use one. I'm not saying your department was wrong or the military was wrong. I'm simply issuing some of the things that I like and don't like about the gun. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. Please help out your local homeless shelters, and remember to recycle. I'll check you later.